In 9.7b, we're going to look at a few more examples of multiplying polynomials. So our first one, we have a plus 3 squared. Now if we have that whole thing squared, we can rewrite that as two sets of a plus 3. Now, once we have it set up like this, we can use our FOIL method. Remember, we have first, outside, inside, last. So I'm going to multiply my first terms. A times a is a squared. My outside terms, a times 3 is 3a. Then I have my inside terms. Again, I have 3a. And my last terms, which would be 3 times 3. Now I can simplify. I can combine 3a plus 3a, gives me 6a. So my final answer is going to be a squared plus 6a plus 9. Okay, same thing for this next example. I've got 2y minus 5 all squared. So I'm going to have two of those. 2y minus 5 times 2y minus 5. And now I can use my FOIL method. So I have 2y times 2y gives me 4y squared. Then I have my outside terms. 2y times negative 5 gives me minus 10y. Then my inside terms, negative 5 times 2y is minus 10y. And my last terms gives me negative 5 times negative 5 is positive 25. Again, I can combine my negative 10y and negative 10y. Those two terms in the middle, you should always be able to combine those together. So we have 4y squared minus 10y is a negative 20y. And then I have plus 25 at the end. Okay, number 4. This one is already set up, so I can FOIL. I have 4r times 4r gives me 16r squared. Then I have my outside terms. 4r times negative 3 is a negative 12r. Then my inside terms, I've got 3 times 4r plus 12r. And my last terms, I get negative 9. So you'll notice here in this example, negative 12r plus 12r, that's 0. So my answer here is just 16r squared minus 9. Whenever we have two sets of parentheses here, you'll notice you have 4r plus 3 and you have 4r minus 3. When those are the same numbers with a different sign, it will always cancel out in the middle there and you'll be left with only two terms. So if you look over here at number 4, we have the same thing, 5m minus 6n and 5m plus 6n. So we know that our two terms in the middle should cancel out. So when we do our FOIL, we have our first term, 5m times 5m is 25m squared. Then our outside terms, we get 5m times 6n. 5 times 6 gives me 30. And I can't combine my m and my n, so it's just going to be 30mn. Then on my inside terms, I get negative 6n times positive 5n is a minus 30mn. So our middle terms are going to cancel out. And then we have negative 6n times positive 6n, which is minus 36n squared. Okay, so we get our two terms in the middle. Positive 30 minus 30 cancel out. So our answer is 25m squared minus 36n squared. And that is our final answer. Okay, two more problems. Let's do number 5 next. We've got x minus 3 times, erase that line, times 2x squared plus 3x minus 7. So in this case, we've got three terms. We've got a trinomial at the end. We're multiplying a binomial by a trinomial. So the way we're going to do these kinds of problems is I'm going to take my first term, my x, and I need to multiply it by each term in my trinomial. So I'm going to have x times 2x squared, which is 2x to the third. Then I have x times 3x, which is 3x squared. And then I have x times negative 7, which is minus 7x. Then I'm going to take my second term, my negative 3, and multiply it by each term in my trinomial. So now I get negative 3 times 2x squared is negative 6x squared. Negative 3 times positive 3x is minus 9x. And negative 3 times negative 7 is positive 21. Now I can combine any like terms. So my 2x to the cubed, it's the only one with an x to the cubed, so that's going to stay by itself. I've got a 3x squared and a negative 6x squared. So I can combine those two into minus 3x squared. Then I have a negative 7x and a negative 9x. That gives me a negative 16x. And then finally, 21 is the only one without any x's, so that's going to stay 21 at the end. And this is my final answer. Okay, let's try one more like that. Got a binomial multiplied by a trinomial, so I'm going to multiply my first term by each term in my trinomial. So 2a times negative 4a squared times b. I'm going to start by multiplying my constants. 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. Then I have a times a squared is a to the third, and then b by itself at the end. My next term, I've got 2a times negative ab squared, so 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Then I've got a squared and b squared. Now 2 times 8 gives me positive 16. A times a is a squared, and b at the end. So now I did my first term. Now I need to do my second term. So I'm going to multiply 3b by each term in my trinomial. So this is going to give me 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. A squared, and then b times b is b squared. Then I have 3 times negative 1, which is negative 3. A is by itself, and I have b times b squared, which is b to the cubed, or b to the third. Then my last term, I've got 3 times 8, which gives me 24. A is by itself, and then b times b is b squared. Now I'm ready to combine any like terms. So I noticed that my negative 8 is the only term with an a cubed, so I'm going to write that one out first. Negative 8a cubed b. Then if I look at my negative 2a squared b squared, I see another term with an a squared b squared. Negative 2 minus 12 is negative 14 a squared b squared. Then I've got 16 a squared b. That is the only one with an a squared and a b, so I'm going to write that one by itself. Then I have a b cubed and a b squared. Again, those ones are going to be by themselves. We can't combine those with anything. And that is my final answer.